When you think about Girl Scouts, you probably think of the smiling munchkins knocking at your door to sell you Thin Mints. But did you know that Girl Scouts didn't sell cookies until almost 20 years after the organization began? The history of the Girl Scouts began with the Boy Scouts in England. In 1908, Robert Baden-Powell created the Boy Scouts because British boys had gone soft. Baden-Powell's call to protect England through outdoor activities attracted young men, and the Scouting movement was born. The Boy Scout movement was so popular in England that it moved to America in 1910. Scouting began as an organization for men, but British girls were also interested in scouting. At his behest, Baden-Powell's sister, Agnes, created the Girl Guides. The idea for the Girl Scout organization began in 1911 when Juliette Gordon Low met Baden-Powell and wanted to begin a girls' association in America. Low saw her organization as an opportunity to improve the lives of all girls by establishing their connections with nature, other girls, and their larger communities. By 1915, Low and her followers departed from the Girl Guide model and adopted the name Girl Scouts of the United States of America, the GSUSA. However, she did keep Baden-Powell's badge curriculum. Badges facilitated learning and became tangible evidence of the girls' mastery of their outdoor and military skills. In its early years, the GSUSA performed service projects that positively impacted victims of war, but the achievement-based action of the Girl Scouts greatly declined after World War II. The 1970s became a turning point for the GSUSA. The generation coming of age in the 70s rejected the traditional values of youth voluntary organizations. The GSUSA did not want to alienate a new generation of Girl Scouts, so they embraced the changing values of the new generation. The GSUSA retains many of the changes they made in the 1970s while continuing to adapt for new generations of Scouts. The GSUSA built its organization on 4 core values: citizenship, community, literacy, and equality. Originally, Scouting was created to teach girls how to participate in a democracy. By learning how to operate democratically within the organization, leaders gave girls the necessary skills to operate democratically outside of it. The second goal of the GSUSA was not only to make girls members of the Scouting community, but also to make them active participants in their local communities. The training Girl Scouts received enabled them to grow from participants in their individual troops to citizens within their adult communities. Although the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts came from the same origins, the GSUSA had one major difference from its male counterpart. Rather than simply being physically fit like the boys, Girl Scouts were expected to be critical thinkers. When the Girl Scouts came into being, the nation was experiencing massive social reform initiated by active female citizens. While older women rallied and marched for their right to vote, young women trained for their own entrance into the civic community with the Girl Scouts. The GSUSA has a long history of embracing diversity and encouraging equality for all girls. At a time when girls with disabilities had few opportunities, Low, who is hearing impaired, created an organization where girls with differences could be part of a supportive community. Low's commitment to embracing diversity didn't end with girls with special needs. Long before the civil rights movement, girls from different races and ethnic backgrounds could join the Girl Scouts. For Low, accepting diversity included geographic regions and socio-economic status in addition to nationality. Girl Scouting wasn't just for girls in the city. The GSUSA knew how much every girl needed the skills the organization offered, so they took measures to serve diverse communities in every area of the country. Another primary goal of the GSUSA was to prepare girls for participation in a male-centric society. In order to be able to participate in a man's world, young women needed more training than they had previously received. The Girl Scouts created an updated version of traditional womanhood. For example, girls were still expected to traditionally female arts like cleanliness and housekeeping. But they also practiced embodied literacy and were called into civic participation. The GSUSA helped young women establish their voice and enter the rhetorical world, equal to their male counterparts. The women's rights movement established a rhetorical space and created an audience for women rhetorics. At its inception, the GSUSA provided a rhetorical training ground for young women as they prepared for civic participation. Today, children need to work collaboratively and democratically just as much as they did in the early 20th century. They need rhetorical training and an investment in their community. The GSUSA once trained girls to become active citizens, but their involvement as a service organization has deteriorated. If they return to their historical roots, they can continue to help children develop their skills and grow into productive citizens. Thanks for joining me for this episode of Did You Know? Girl Scouts Edition.